I've said loads of times on this channel that I've got a real soft spot for British hi-fi kit. I reckon that's down to spending my formative enthusiast years living in the UK back in the 80s and 90s. What if I renamed this channel my own British devices and only featured hi-fi from old Blighty? These days, I've got a fair few pieces of decent British gear knocking about, but there's one quintessentially British brand I've always fancied owning, but haven't yet. Quad. Proper legends, really, known for their groundbreaking electrostatic speakers and electronics with a style all their own. So here's a little story. I recently visited the House of Stereo in Jacksonville, Florida, and spotted Quad's modern update of their classic 1960s preamp and amp on display. And I asked Jasmine, the director of operations, if I could borrow them and check them out for a YouTube video, and she and Joe, the owner, kindly obliged. If you're not familiar with House of Stereo, they're one of the premier hi-fi dealers in the southeast of the US. Their spacious store has numerous listening rooms and feature an extraordinary selection of top hi-fi brands, from entry-level systems to sky's the limit. Since its founding in 1941 as the Acoustical Manufacturing Company in Huntington, England, the Quad brand has developed a broad range of products and has undergone quite a few changes over the decades. Now, they currently have a comprehensive line of products, from streamers and CD players to loudspeakers and solid-state and tube-powered amplifiers. Two of their most recent products are the Quad 33 preamp and the 303 amplifier that closely emulate the look of their 1960s originals. Wharfedale, the British speaker manufacturer under the same ownership as Quad, has been releasing modern versions of their classic vintage models for several years now, which have been exceedingly popular with the punters. So that may have been the impetus for Quad to do the same. From what I understand, the individuals at Quad responsible for servicing vintage and older Quad electronics were chosen to head the design team for the 33 and 303 due to their familiarity and knowledge of the original circuits. Now, they retail for $1,599 each in the US, and I was surprised when I learned their price, because just going by the looks and reputation, I was seriously expecting them to be about double that number. Sorry to interrupt, I'll be very brief. According to my YouTube stats, the vast majority of views on this channel are from non-subscribers, which tell me that my actual subscribers are not being notified when a new episode is available. So if you enjoy this type of content and wish to see more in the future, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so when a new video is up, you'll know about it. Thanks. Out of the box, it's plain to see that Quad went to town designing new models with similar dimensions, looks, and functionality of the 60-year-old models, but replacing some of the outmoded features with modern enhancements and functionality. Below the prominent volume knob on the left, there are 3 buttons for the auxiliary RCA line inputs and 1 for the XLR. There's also a phono input for a turntable that can handle moving magnet and moving coil cartridges. You briefly press the phono button to switch between moving magnet and moving coil mode. There are buttons that allow you to adjust or turn off the backlit display and bypass the tone controls. There's also a useful headphone jack and a remote control sensor on the front. Now, speaking of tone controls, they are not your typical controls. They have bass and tilt. Now, the bass has a limited range of plus or minus 3 decibels, and there's no treble knob, but a tilt control that pivots at 700 Hz and adjusts both ends of the frequency spectrum. either attenuating the bass and lifting the treble, or lifting the bass and attenuating the treble. And it also has a balance control, which you don't see much of these days. Looking around on the back, gone are the old DIN sockets, replaced with 3 pairs of RCAs and an XLR input. Now regarding outputs, there are 2 pairs of RCA and 1 XLR. If you like to use trigger cables, it's got them as well. Now looking back at the old model, I do miss the days when components had switched and unswitched mains power outlets. Very convenient. Someone should bring that feature back, but in an acceptable modern way. The 33 preamp includes a lightweight plastic remote that feels like it may not survive a drop on a hard tile floor, but it's thoroughly functional. Just be really careful with it. Now, the deceptively heavy for its size quad amplifier is a simpler affair in comparison. The Class AB 303 is rated at a modest 50 watts per channel into 8 ohms and 70 into 4. As in the original 303, the heatsink is right in the front, not on the sides or the back where you expect to find them. There is also a generous number of air vents up on the top surface, and from my experience, it runs very cool. Much cooler than several Class D amps I've used recently. And down at the bottom between the heat sinks is the backlit orange standby switch. Now let's look around at the back. The speaker binding posts are at the top, which make them easy to access. And I always appreciate getting both RCA and XLR inputs. And these are switchable. There's also a trigger input and a master power switch. Additionally, with the push of a button, the 303 instantly converts into mono mode. More on that a bit later. After powering them up, there is a delay of a few seconds while they warm up and the relays click on. Now please note, out of the box, they will automatically go into standby mode after 20 minutes when not in use. Now, according to the manual, users can extend that time to an hour or to never turn off at all. Now I started off with them as part of my desk system, paired with a topping DAC running off a Mac Mini, a Riga Planar 3 turntable, and a really nice pair of CSS stand mount loudspeakers. And I connected the Planar 3 to the 303's preamp phono input and switched it to accommodate a moving magnet cartridge. Using Roon, I played a variety of tracks from my CD collection across different genres, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time listening. The combo was more neutral and even-handed than my wonderfully fun and offbeat, original, and deceptively punchy 13 watt per channel named Nate integrated amp. The quad combo had a more grown-up tone and drove the CSS speakers in a commanding manner. And the combo did not interfere with the CSS speaker's ability to disappear when playing music. I was impressed with how it performed playing records with an Audio-Technica cartridge. The music reproduction was energetic and direct, with barely any audible background noise. In my opinion, you'll need to spend at least $500 on an external preamp to get better record playback. I moved the quads over to my main system featuring a Bluesound Node Streamer, a Holo Audio DAC, a Linn LP12 turntable, and a pair of Magnepan 1.6X loudspeakers. The amp 70 watts per channel into the 4 ohm Maggies was more than enough to easily drive them to volumes well beyond what my ears could tolerate in the room. The sound was elegant and smooth and resolving without becoming excessively bright or strident. However, the sound veered on the well-mannered rather than the vivacious side of things. Then Jasmine from House of Stereo got in touch to inform me that a second 303 amplifier was available to use for a few days, and this would allow me to try them in 140 watt per channel monoblock mode, which got me excited, and I was not disappointed. Now my hi-fi rack is just a bit too narrow to accommodate the 3 units side by side, So my solution was to sit the 33 preamp on top across the back of the two amps. Happily, this arrangement did not interfere with the airflow or cooling in any way. Now, there is an option to place monoblock amps on the floor very close to the speakers with short cables, but hiding them like that was a non-starter for me. The difference was immediate and profound. There was greater gain, so I had needed to turn the volume down a bit. I also heard expanded drive and push with the music. The low frequencies had a forcefulness that was missing previously. It just sounded better all around to my ears. The single 303 was very good, but going with two in mono mode noticeably leveled things up. Are there any downsides? Well, there are a few purely subjective ones. Nothing that would stop me from considering purchasing them. I found the printed labeling on the back a bit difficult to read because they chose to go with white text instead of black on the silver finish, so the labels can be difficult to read at oblique angles in lighting conditions. Additionally, I did not find the backlit orange display easy to read from across the room. Had to get pretty close to see it clearly. It seems to me that Quad may have gone a bit more for looks over functionality with the text and display. Now, looking at the 33 preamp specs, it appears that Quad designed the XLR and RCA line inputs to be passive, with no added gain. So as a result, I noticed that it was required to rotate the volume knob past the 12 o'clock position to get some rocking levels going. Now, personally, I prefer a few decibels of gain in a preamp as it can add some extra zest to the proceedings. These are my personal nitpicks, and they don't significantly detract from the overall enjoyment of the quads. Now, this is a deliberately old-school combination of separates with the retro looks, Class AB, no digital capabilities, no app. It boldly flies in the face of the modern trend to integrate Class D amp modules, DAC, streamers, Bluetooth, phone apps, and even speakers into one or two box solutions. If you are looking for a traditional preamp and amplifier combo that is visually distinctive, very flexible, beautifully made, and can deliver sonic goodness, the Quad 33 and 303 are a strong value at $3,200. And I would highly recommend that if you could swing it, get a second 303 and run them in mono mode. In my opinion, the improvement was clearly audible and enjoyable in my system with the Magnepan speakers. I would like to thank House of Stereo for the Quad 33 and 303 loans, and if you live in Northeast Florida, you can arrange a proper demo of these quad components at House of Stereo in Jacksonville. Joe and Jasmine can help you and answer any of your questions. And now if you live too far away for an in-person visit, the House of Stereo's website is e-commerce enabled for online sales. And if you don't see what you're looking for, reach out to them for assistance.